5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Boy, look, when I tell you that I don't know what's going on, I'm so serious. I have no clue what's going on right now.
Guys, this is a dangerous episode. This is a dangerous episode to film.
Yeah.
This is one of the only times recently. It won't be the last time.
Oh, for sure.
But one of the only times recently that I have no clue what's about to happen.
None.
Nobody knows.
Zilch.
And I think Sheldon and I are on one right now.
Yeah.
Laughing a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
This one might not ever make it out.
It might not. It might stay locked in the vault. But if you are hearing this on any platform, I would just like to cordially.
SAT word.
Yes, you know, I didn't.
No,
I was about to say I didn't pass the SAT, but that's not true.
You know what, man? What they say about you is wrong, man. You're a smart guy.
Hold on, what they say?
Don't worry about that. So I know what they say about you, but I think you're all right, man.
You know what, AJ? You know how I feel about that, man? I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. I'm just here for you. Trying to lift you up, man. How's your week been, bro?
That's so deceitful.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Right now, that's so deceitful.
Look me in the eyes. Nah, it's a good way to start, though. I feel like, at least when I'm listening to podcasts and doing stuff like that, sometimes it's nice when you get one that doesn't feel very targeted or topical or something like that. But now, I think we can talk about a little bit our week for sure. But we're like a quarter of the way through the year.
Oh.
Yeah.
March is about to be over.
How about that one?
Sheesh.
We can recap a little bit what's happened so far, what we thinking, what we feeling, how we changing, growing.
Oh man.
How's your week been though? You've actually had a crazy week.
Do I want to talk about it?
I don't know.
Am I allowed to talk about it?
You can get as into it as you want to. Not at all either.
That's interesting.
You can leave them with the cliffhanger and be like, you'll never know.
You will never know until you know. Yeah. But one day you will find out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you
there.
texted us was, hey, God's just been God this week, man. He just been on one. And that's
I'm thinking about something totally different.
And you know
I'm
what?
thinking about the other thing.
And you know what? That's also true. There's a lot.
Yeah.
You don't have to get into that.
I'm not getting into that one. You will know
like,
when you
these
know.
men have been talking for 2 minutes about nothing.
We still have not. Welcome everybody.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
great time.
welcome back to Lessons and Blessings. 2.5 minutes in, plus the 20 seconds from our intro that I know you guys love so much. You don't skip, because if you skip it, I know.
We can see.
Yeah, we have your IP address. Anyway.
Oh my God.
I'm joking. I wish. Wait, we can find it. We can find it. It won't be hard.
I can make a call.
AJ has people. Matter of fact, I think he is the people.
I'm not the people.
He's
I
not
wish
the
I
people.
was the
He's
people.
not him. He's not like that.
Like that. Welcome back.
Welcome back to Lessons and Blessings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We do not have video this week, so I want you to use your imagination and picture what you think the setup is.
Also, make me more handsome than Sheldon in your imagination.
I don't think that's possible, but
just for once, I need.
You know what? Matter of fact, bro, you're already handsome.
Don't do that. See, you see that switch up? You see that?
You already see. I can't stand when you talk down to yourself like that, brother.
Shut up, boy. Shut up.
Nah, but welcome back to Lessons and Blessings, man. It's good to be back with the host with the most, my boy AJ
out here.
He really is out here for real.
2 letters.
I don't know what that means, but for the longest, again, I did not know your full name was Andrew.
It's not.
And Andy.
Nope.
Albert.
That's 3 strikes. Adam.
That was my first guess.
That's the first man. Could have been first guess.
But I thought your name was AJ. Just AJ.
Nah, just the initials.
But I thought the J was Junior, but it wasn't.
I'd never be another man's junior.
That is
never
respectable.
And you know what? If you're a junior, I'm not taking back anything I just said. I'm kidding.
You can like being a junior is.
There's some legacy too.
You can't control that.
There's some legacy, you know. Like I think, let's not pretend. I'm not a junior, but by definition, Adam is from my mom's father, so my grandfather, and Jeffrey is my middle name, which is my dad's name. So I might as well be.
Oh,
I might as well be.
You
know, they just kind of skirted around it.
You're not like an official junior, but you're like a low key under the table. Like
this is a good question.
Background junior.
Yeah, like for you personally, so I knew a friend of mine who's the fourth of somebody. Okay. What number where you're in, like, you are this number, when are you like, that's enough? That's enough.
I think the perfect number is 3.
I agree.
Because any name with the third just sounds like baller.
I like Regal a little bit.
It's just like AJ the third.
Oh.
Or, well, AJ the fourth doesn't sound crazy either. Now, I think it depends how many syllables in the first name.
That's true. That's a good point.
If your name is Bartholomew. Yeah. Bartholomew the eighth.
Eighth is crazy, though.
Right. At that point, crazy, like, really? Y'all had 8 more?
So, but is there a point? Is there a point, though, where it becomes cool again? Because I feel like when you hit, like, I feel like there's a valley. Like 1, 2, 3 is great. 4,
depends on the name.
5, 6, I think is horrendous. 5, 6, I think is tough.
Was it like Louis? Like, was it who's the famous Louis the?
There was a lot of them.
No, it was Louis. When did it end? Like the famous Louis the Eighth, or
yeah, I think it went up to that. I don't know if there's anyone after that, but I think you could get like 7, 8 again. You're like, oh, that's really cool that you had so many. Because then I think you start to go like, how many years back?
Yeah.
Does this name last? Mm-hmm. I think 5 and 6 is just
outrageous.
Let's just move on to something else. But then when you come in, like, I think it starts to get weird again at like 20.
I don't even know if there is any lineage that I've seen, like the 15th, exactly. The 16th, the 17th.
Yep.
I feel like the line just gets cut off at like 11.
Somebody has a daughter, doesn't carry on the line, they take somebody else's name. And that's what we're talking about today. But nope, we're not.
That's not what we're talking about. But my throat is so dry from these darn Canada Dry you forced me to drink.
No, I did not.
Here first, everybody. This man tried to poison me. But the week though, bro, week was good, man. Some crazy stuff that we're not gonna talk about, but some also crazy stuff that we are gonna talk about that God did in the span of minutes in one day. I just find that wild. Like, I sent him a text to the boys group chat, and I was like, "Yo, something crazy happened." I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And so I tell him. So one of my clients at work asked me to be a travel coach and want me to go to Canada with them. Now, for a lot of people, you're like, okay, what's the big deal with that? I have no experience being a travel coach, and I haven't been working where I've been working for that long.
Right.
I'm not even this girl's full-time coach. I just hit with her and keep her like
active.
Keep her active. Fresh. Keep her sharp and all those different things. And her mom was like, "Hey, you want to come to Canada with us?" I was like, "Huh?" And Mexico too. I was like, "Huh?" Okay, I was like, "Oh, that sounds great." Okay, I need to get my passport so we can actually talk about it and pay and all that stuff. Great, fantastic opportunity to go and travel, see different places, and continue to make a little bit more than what I would make if I was just doing lessons, because obviously you're displaced and you're there, and so
some compensation.
And then, as that conversation was happening, I got a phone call from a homie. He was like, "Yo, in a second, you're about to get a notification on your phone, and you have to accept it." My brain is like, he's about to ask me to do a bet. That's something so outlandish. There's no way I can say yes.
That's guy speak for there's no way I can say yes to this.
But at the same time, there's also like, but there's a part of me, the bro code, so I can't say no. He's already told me I can't say no.
Oh, man of my word.
And he's like, "Hey, just accept it when it comes through." I was like, "Okay, I don't know. What are you talking about?" Boy, I got a ding from PayPal.
Ooh. And
it was a generous sum of money.
Generous.
I screamed. Mid-conversation, like, "Oh!" and then I was like, "Oh, you're kind of a phone call?" Like, "Yeah, just give me a second." Give me a second. I'm like, "Bro, you're crazy."
Yeah, that's crazy.
But he was pretty much saying how he just wanted to, how he wanted to bless me, because at one point in time, early in their marriage, I helped them with some stuff. I didn't really have it like that at the time, so I wasn't expecting to get anything back. Right. I didn't want anything back, truly. But for him to do that, I was like, "Man, y'all about to make me cry, man." And I was like, "This is crazy." I didn't cry at the minute, but like, cry for generosity. I'm like, "Okay, got it. What's happening right now?" You just gave me 2 great opportunities just like that. I just woke up and existed today.
Yeah, that's true. I went about my regularly scheduled programming.
Like, I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. I'm like, "Oh, you just want to bless me like that?"
Yeah.
So you like that guy?
Oh, so you like
Does
that?
he like that?
He is like that.
I like that. Let's keep. Hold on. By the way, we were rapping earlier. Boy, we was spitting. We didn't do our actual intro. Should we do the intro for him?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know exactly. If I start this intro, you're gonna join in on this intro. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Is it copyrighted?
Maybe.
Then we can't.
But this is not monetized.
All right. I don't know all the legalese of what's allowed and what's not. Okay. At your own risk.
Fair use.
Fair use.
That's a law. That's a law. Fair use.
Fair use.
Mm-hmm. Fair use.
Don't. You can't do this. You cannot do this. Okay. If I'm thinking what you're thinking about, you just started singing the iCarly theme song at some point. Okay. All right. And there he goes.
I was about to start.
And there he goes. No, that is dope.
How I feel. So
you're out of control. Out of control.
Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No. I think it's cool though. You know, like I had this thought earlier today. I've never had like gifts as like one of my like love languages. To be honest, like I never really cared that much. Like I'm appreciative. Mm-hmm. I'm always appreciative, but like I'm not somebody who doesn't get a gift and I'm like, oh, this sucks. You know, like I feel slighted. But I realized like as I'm getting older and it's harder to see people and make time for all the people that you want to see in life, like the thought of somebody being like, hey, I was thinking about you, so I got you this, or I'm giving you this. Yeah. It just means so much more to me now this year than it did like a couple years ago. You know, maybe it's just getting older, but yeah, like that feeling of unexpected generosity. Like I wasn't counting on this. I don't even need this necessarily.
Blindsided.
Right.
That's the thing. Cause I was like, what do I even do with this money? Yeah. Like there's so many things I can do. I can, put it to my loans. I can save it. I can invest it. I can buy more equipment for the pod. I can buy a camera. Right. I can buy a new mic. I can do this and this and this. God, what do you want me to do with it? Because I just want to be a good steward of what has been gifted to me. Right. Because literally, it was crazy when he says, like, "Hey, I know you think about getting some new pod equipment. We got wedding coming up. Not mine.
I was like, hey, heard it here first.
Surprise, everybody. I've been engaged. What? Anyway, got a wedding we got to travel to for one of our close friends and bachelor party and all that different stuff. It's just like, hey, I don't know what you're gonna do with it, but this is your money to do whatever you want. So I'm like, all right, God, I see the blessings, I receive it. What do you want me to do with it? And I'm like, God, I want you to bless this tenfold back to them. Yeah, because that I know where they are. They need this money more than I do, truthfully. For them for you to put it on their heart to give it back to me, when, like you said, I didn't really need it. I love that I got it, but God, how can this be given back to them tenfold? Yeah, hundredfold, however many folds you want to do. Because God, you can fold as many folds as you can possibly fold. Because you're the great folder.
The great folder. I'm 26 years old. I've never heard that as a description for God.
And you want to know why?
Why?
Because nobody is willing enough to say it.
Don't do that. Don't do that. No, it is great though. I mean, it has me thinking too. You know that feeling like right after you get something like that, and then all of a sudden you want to be more generous too, because you're like, I know how that made me feel. I know like what my experience was with it. Like I remember when I first had some conversations with some adults in my life about some student loans that I was having difficulty just getting on top of, or at least just at the time I had to move out the house, and so I was trying to take care of a lot of other finances. And when they came in and were like, yeah, I'm just going to take care of that. You're like, huh? I just remember being like, that's who I want to be. Like I want to be on that side of the table one day. So for me, I think there's that added level of when you, I don't know, this is a good question. We'll see where it goes. Do you think, or how big of a part do you think sacrifice plays in generosity? Because God tells us to be generous. We were having a conversation a little bit ago at dinner about even sometimes misstewarding funds and things of that nature. Do you have to be sacrificial to be generous?
No, I don't think always. I think there's two sides to that generosity: being generous through your sacrifice, and being generous from the overflow, from the abundance. Sure. And I think when it comes from the abundance, that usually comes from you stewarding your money well, you having some left over. Okay, what do I do with this? Yeah. Sometimes God say save it. Sometimes He might tell you to invest it. Sometimes He might tell you to give it away. Whatever He decides to tell you to do with that, that's different. That's depending on you and your relationship with Him. Now, when it comes to sacrificial giving, I think that has to be done with discernment, because you can sacrificially give and God did not tell you to. Now you're in the worst situation because you just wanted to be generous. True. Not saying that He won't use that, but He didn't tell us to do that. Because you can take that same logic and be like, hey, like going back to our conversation at dinner, like if I was to help somebody in a situation that God did not ask me to help them in and I get burned, Whose fault is it? Is it my fault because I didn't? Maybe let me take a step back and see. But I just went head first because like we didn't. I'm gonna use this burn to produce something in you and show you this, and I'm gonna bring you closer to me. But you didn't have to go through that. I think it could be the same way when it comes to that sacrificial gift. I don't think it has to be sacrificial.
Yeah. No, I think what it makes me think of in a weird way is Moses with the Israelites. And both times there's an account of Israel needing water. And so the first time God is talking to Moses, Moses is like, hey, why have you given me these people? They suck, and they're complaining about water. Yeah. And so God tells him, go and strike the rock and it will give you water, right? And so he strikes it and it does it. So later on, a couple chapters later, I think, they're in a similar predicament. Hey, we're in the desert. We ain't got no water, all this kind of stuff. And so God tells Moses, okay, now go and speak to it this time. Speak and it will come. So he strikes the rock twice. So I remember growing up as a kid, I was like, that doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, and as I was growing up, I was like, it's kind of cool that God still gave the people what they needed.
Right.
But I think this past year, as I've read it, as I've been going through the Bible again, I think there's a lesson in I'm not supposed to default into, like, following God isn't it's not a linear graph, right? So it's not like a flow chart of when this happens, then I do this.
Yeah, one size fits all.
Right. It's a living relationship. Right. And so I think sometimes, going back to the generosity point, generosity, whether it's sacrificial or not, over the top or not, whether you have it like that or you don't, I think a lot of it does come back to obedience. Right. Right? Now, I would also push back and say that you can't outgive God. Right. So like, I think sometimes I'm a little bit too scared to be sacrificial because I'm like, well, God, I got to be a good steward. And he's like, well, I'm going to do it with or without you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, but I think it's interesting just to think about at 26 years old. I remember being 16 and I remember being, I think, unable to differentiate, hey, this situation needs this tool. This situation doesn't. They look the same. In fact, they are the same. But God asked me to use it here, and he didn't ask me to use it here. I don't know. Just a thought.
So what does that discernment look like for you? How do you get to a place of knowing God has told me to go here versus he has not told me to go here? Especially when you have a piece of bread that looks like bread, a piece of bread that smells like bread, you have a piece of bread that tastes like bread, and on the other side, it looks like the same bread that you tasted. It smells like the same bread, and it looks like the same bread. Yeah. How do you differentiate between that, like, audibly? I'm just gonna leave it there. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one, honestly, I think it still takes a lot of work for me to figure out. You know, I think being on my own and being married for these past couple of years, you're kind of realizing, like Ecclesiastes says, that all of it kind of boils down to the same stuff, right? Like I'm seeing more iterations of it nowadays, and I've lived enough life at this point to see some of these cycles kind of come full circle. But ultimately, I think if we naturally just autopilot, I think we'd never know anyway. So I think that for me, there is a extra step that God invites us into, which is inviting him into it, right? Talking to him about it, right? Like, even if I think about, and I know sometimes it's hard to deal with, like, the deity of Jesus and the humanity of Jesus, but even when I think about the Garden of Gethsemane, the way that I read that passage is not that Jesus actually thinks that God isn't about to go through with what he was sent to do. That's the whole reason he's there. But there's something about Jesus allowing God to be in that moment and extending that, even as almost, I just feel like at some level, it's like a son, like looking back at his father, just checking in, like, I'm going to go do this thing. Yeah? How do we feel? Is this okay? And, I think we talk about it a lot on the pod, or at least in person, that there's this kind of dichotomy that we have where, like, God isn't trying to be like the best earthly parents ever, where earthly parents succeed when you can stand on your own 2 feet. God is never trying to get you to outgrow him. Right. So I think that one of the ways I have to navigate that is really the humility of saying, like, hey, God, I've done this way before and it's worked really well. Is that what you want me to do here, or are we going to do something different? Because we love preaching about God doing something a new way. right? God's going to do a new thing. Isaiah, I'm about to open up streams and all this kind of stuff and all this. Forget everything that's come before. And yet, I have yet to meet a single person that loves change. So, like, and there's some parts where, like, yeah, I like changing. Yeah, you like changing what you like changing. You don't like changing what you need to change. Yeah. Right? So, like, it's everybody. At some level, I think I look back and I'm like, oh, well, that preaches really well. The way it lives out is difficult because I have to have the humility of saying, God, maybe I've even had success in this area. I've been able to do this well. But I don't ever want to lean on my own understanding, on my own 2 feet. God, what do you think about this? Do you want to go a different way? And I think just having that conversation, for one, if God says, yes, I want to do the same thing, there's almost a confidence of being like, we've been this way before, right? I know I necessarily know everything's going to happen, but like I can step boldly knowing that we've done this before, we've been through this before, and I can trust in him the way I trusted him the first time. The second thing, no, I don't want to do it that way, AJ. I feel like it's an opportunity to be like, dang, I'm about to see God do something new. That's exciting. But I think when we autopilot into, well, you know, this is like the third person in a week that's asked me the same question, or multiple people in my life are having the same issue. I think if we do like a one size fits all, you end up doing more damage potentially to one of those situations. Maybe they didn't need to hear that. I think case in point, I had 2 really close friends of mine at one point kind of go through the same sin struggle whenever I was a leader over them as a young adult. And I remember talking to Whitney about it, and I was like, you know what the weirdest thing was? Is it was the same conversation. Like the same action happened, the same offense was committed, but the way I had those conversations were vastly different. This one over here needed way more grace because they were way too busy beating themselves up, and I knew them both very well. I knew that they were just going to be beating themselves up, and I know they needed to know it's okay, I love you, you're still accepted. This other person, I also knew very well, and I knew they needed to hear, you knew better. Why do we do that? Let's dig a little bit. Like I'm not coming with as much grace in this conversation. Now, on the surface, I guess you could say I was maybe making a guess on what everybody needed in that moment. But I do like to think that knowledge of somebody else, God is giving us different tools to navigate the same situations. Yeah. For this person, it was, man, you're not worthless. I still love you. It's going to be okay. We're going to move forward. For this other person, it was, hey, yes, I love you, but you knew better. Why did we make this choice? And some of that comes down to what is God trying to accomplish in both of these situations. What about for you? What do you think it is? How do you know when your discernment is saying, hey, I know maybe we're used to doing it a certain way, but we can't do that this time?
That's tough.
It is.
It's tough because I know I'm a creature of habit. We're all creatures of habit.
All of us.
And going back to your point about how we don't like change, I am actively trying to embrace oh my gosh, my throat. I'm trying to embrace as much change as I possibly can because I know things will change, right?
Yeah, sure.
But I also don't want to get into a place where I'm so looking for change that I'm always expecting something different or new, where the change can just be a perspective, but I'm doing the same thing because I'm doing the same thing with a different perspective that changes the outcome. And so when it comes to me, okay, when I get to that fork in the road, when they're faced with a decision that I've been faced with before, how will I go about it? So if I have the time to look back, okay, when I made this decision, I thought this thing, I did this, I asked this, I got this result.
Yeah.
When I did not do that, this was the result. And then I think if you have enough time to sit and ask God, like, hey, what should we do? And I think when it comes to that, what should we do? When he asks you to try something different, do something different, a lot of times what I've experienced in my own life is when God's telling me to do something different, I don't want to do it because it's unfamiliar to me.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable. And it's something I usually don't have the skill to do well as if I was doing it the other way. And it's the same thing. I look at it like this, where I run into this problem so much coaching the kids that I coach in tennis. When they built up bad habits, but they worked. Like, you've seen some success.
Correct.
But you've also seen way more failure. But the success keeps you in that space. Like, oh, I'll get better eventually. But then you get the outside perspective of, hey, you've gotten this far, and this is as far as you're gonna get.
It's only gonna take you this far.
Once you hit that ceiling, this is your ceiling. Like, I hate to be the person to tell you this is your ceiling, but this is your ceiling. If you do it this other way, I can guarantee 2 things. You're not gonna like it. 3 things. You're not gonna like it. It's gonna be uncomfortable, and you're probably gonna lose.
Yeah.
In the beginning, because you're learning a new technique, you're learning a new way to do something, and you have not yielded the result that it needs to take to build up that muscle, so it can be more successful down the road. And I think that for me, I have to constantly be looking to play a long game, because I want to be so like instantly gratified, instead of delayed gratification. And so when I think about when I've been doing something one way for so long versus God, hey, I want you to do it this other way. He's not necessarily, hey, this way was wrong, because I've allowed you to stay in here for this long. I didn't rebuke you. I didn't do all these things. I just want you to do it this way. And once you get into that, I will show you why. And then you realize, wait, going back to the ceiling thing, I was only going to get this far doing it this way. But if I did it this way, not only do I, like you said, not lean on my own understanding, I'm leaning on him. Right. If I'm leaning on him, the possibilities are endless. Yeah. But you can make the same claim. Why didn't I do the same thing on the other side? Because I've been doing it the same way. Not looking for what's the word I want to use? Not looking for a different outcome, because I know if I do the same thing this way, I'm going to get said outcome. Yeah. Because I don't want to go into insanity with doing the same thing, expecting a different result. It don't work like that. But when God calls me the other direction, then what? Now I'm in the unfamiliar. Now I'm questioning his voice. God, did you actually tell me to do this? So find out. Are you going to step or you're not? Yeah. And not stepping, you're going to find out that he told you to do it. Right. And when you step out, you're going to find out that he told you to do it. And if he told you to move in this way, he's going to wait for you to move. He's not going to be like, you know what, my bad, I made a mistake. You can keep doing your own thing. He allows us to stay in our own ways if we want to, because he's loving. He gives us a chance. He gives us an option to do that. But he's just lovingly inviting us to, hey, how about you take this different path? Right. Let's go this way. And let me show you what you were missing, or what you simply were missing in this other spot. And so, yeah, man, it's tricky, but at the same time, it's not, because I look at it like this: if you're somebody who struggles with obedience to God, you need to start being obedient in the very small things. And I really use small things because that's our human way of like, okay, this is a big thing. Say a big thing of obedience to be like, God told me to move across the country and uproot my career, and I move across the country off of what I believe God told me. Yeah. A small thing of obedience could be, he'd tell you, hey, I need you to get up every day at 8 a.m. Yeah. No later. That could be a small thing, right? But to God, obedience is obedience, whether it's what we perceive as big or small. Yeah. And so, but using our human concept, if I am able to be consistently obedient to God in the little things, what does that do for me? It gives me the ability to trust him. I get to know him, and I know his character. So when he asks me to do the big thing, quote unquote, I already have a proven track record of being obedient here. So there's nothing to do that. Oh, right. I know what you sound like. I know what your voice is in my life, because I've been being obedient in this way, in this area, in this area, in this area, in this area. So now that you're calling me in a different way, okay. If you actually said it, let's do it. And so that's kind of my approach to that. What do you think on that? Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think the more that I think about it, like, I think one of the interesting things about that passage with Moses the second time is that's the reason that Moses doesn't get to enter the promised land. Right? So that's, God says, the actual, I think it's in the NLT, but he says, because you failed to display my holiness, which even now, I'm like, he struck a rock. Like, how does that violate your holiness? Now, I'm not saying God's wrong, but I am saying, like, well, I don't view that as serious as God does. And why? Why is that? Simply because he told him to speak in that. But I think, too, here's something that I was just thinking about. I think if Moses always strikes the rock whenever the people need it, they'll start to think Moses is God. What I mean is, because obviously they know, like, they've had experiences with God, but they'll forget that he's just a man. If I always deal with the same problem the same way,
people can confuse me with the solution rather than God, because all they ever see is, well, there's a rock, just go get Moses to hit it.
Yeah.
As if it's me, as if I have the power to just go and make water come out of any rock.
Right.
But if they see me hit this rock and get water, and they see me go and talk to this rock and get water, and the constant in that is that God told me to, who's got the power? God does. And so potentially we rob the people experiencing and viewing God's work in our lives and through us, because we give them the out of saying, yeah, but that's just how they do it. That's just so-and-so. That's just their gift. Yeah. That's whatever it is. And we rob them of the experience of understanding, no. Not only am I not special, God can use you too, but he is that powerful. Right? So whether I speak, whether I strike, whether I sing, whether I whatever it is, as long as God has asked me to do that, that's where the life change and the power is. Now, I think also it makes me think of the centurion with Jesus, right? Who says, you're a man of authority. I'm under authority. If you just say it'll happen, it'll go. There's some understanding, like, and I think this is a little bit of our conversation somewhat about where we think like the climate of American Christianity is right now, which we'll have an episode about that at some point. If you think Jesus is a cool guy and like you want him in the car on the road trip, then you still might trust you. Like you still might be like, oh yeah, I think I know what's best. I know the route to take, all this kind of stuff. But if you're actually following somebody, and I think that's a word that gets diluted because we use it so much in church, to like pattern my steps after the steps that I see. When Jesus says, I only see and say what I have seen the Father do and say, right? There's this idea of like, well, the constant in all change is I'm trusting that God knows what he's doing. Right. And not me. So when I start to not be obedient, let's call it what it is, I'm being prideful. Right. I'm starting to think that it's me. Absolutely. And so I think although it is a question of discernment of God, what you want me to do here, I think the willingness to take the time and to step back and actually try to discern is the heart of the issue. Because when I don't do that, I'm saying, I've got it. I've got it. I'll just strike the rock again. And he's like, well, guess what? You didn't display my holiness, and now you don't get to go into the blessing because you're disobedient. So I wonder how much of it is God saying, no, but you don't understand. It has to happen this way this time. Right. Because I know more than you do. And that's one of those areas, too, where it's like, even if it doesn't make sense to me, why God... Like I came up with an interpretation, but even if that's not the truth, God knows things that he doesn't owe it to me to explain them to me. Right. But
it's God,
it's about saying like, yeah, but do I trust how you want to do it, God? Not how I've seen it work. Because I'm trying to build like you're saying, I'm trying to build a resume of following the voice of God. Not just doing the things he's told me to do. But the constant is, okay, God, if you want to do this the same way, great. If you want to do it a different way, great. And I think the earlier we can learn that's like the magic isn't in the method that we choose. It's not the tool. The magic is in listening to the voice of the person who can actually do something about it. But that's a difficult thing to do. I'm not going to lie. That's hard for me to do. I just think the more I think about it, it's like, man, how many of those people needed to see Moses speak to the rock, though?
Right. Because I'm just, as you're talking about that, I'm like thinking, man, you said God does not owe us an explanation on why he told us to do anything. Right. I think he blesses us when he does do that. Hey, I told you to just because of this reason. But I think a lot of times we get our explanation after we're obedient. We just see the fruit of it like immediately. Like, oh, that's why you wanted me to do that. And he's like, yep. And so about the thing, going back to your point of if he kept striking the rock, had their perspective go, oh, it's Moses' power that's doing this. Yep. But also, I would think they would lose the miraculousness of the miracle that's happening every time it happens. Yep. They go callous to it. It becomes mundane. It becomes expect.
It becomes manna to them.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's gonna happen. It's whatever.
Well, yeah, because at the end of that, right, they're like, can we get some meat? Yeah. And he's like, at first, whenever they needed manna, it was like, this is awesome. This is what we need. God continued to do it. Bruh, you're on to something. No, you're on to something. Because that idea of like, when it becomes mundane to us, we'll start to undervalue what it actually is. Oh, that's nasty.
And that's why we need change.
That's nasty.
Like, that's why we need change for that reason. Because he knows we we'll get bored.
We'll get sick of it. Man, we suck, dude.
Yeah, for real,
I'm heated, bro.
Like, it's nuts, bro. And I'm just thinking, like, man, like, what could God could have done with? I mean, God has displayed so much power through Moses' voice alone.
So much.
What more would he have done if Moses would have been like, okay, rock, water, now?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But when it comes to our time of obedience, are we going to be obedient? Like that, I was reading this book called The All God. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
And he mentioned 5 pillars of obedience, and one of them was obey even when it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Obey to completion. Obey when there's no personal benefit. All this, and I forgot the other 2, but obey when it doesn't make sense. I was like, because our humanness. I'm getting back into apologetics again. And gotcha. Man, I've been eating it up, bro. Yeah. I've been eating it up, thinking about the human condition and how we get to actually articulate that there is a God, there is a moral God, that the God that we believe is the true God, that He is actually good, and the lens that God has put in our brain to articulate why this is able to be true based off of logic, which is, I think, is nuts to begin with. I'm like, as a human, we want to work on certainty. But our faith, it by definition, it's not certainty. Yeah. It's uncertain.
Yeah.
I like the rhetoric they use in Ephesians, where it talk about the mystery of God and then the mystery revealed. I think a lot of times we trade the mystery for certainty. And when we trade the mystery, like I was telling somebody else, when we trade the mystery for certainty, we lose the flavor that God wanted us to take, to taste.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more fun. I might sound crazy. People are like, oh, you're wild. It just doesn't make any sense. I think it's more fun following God when you don't know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Because if I know what's about to happen, he's like, oh, well, here comes another miracle. Look at him. He's about to heal somebody. Look at here comes the demon getting cast out.
Right.
But God's like, hey, go talk to that person. Okay. Now you're praying in tongues. What? Like,
yeah.
I didn't know that was going to happen.
Just didn't know what I was walking into.
And now you're on fire.
Right.
And he takes you to the next thing. And to the next thing. To the next thing. To the next thing. To the next thing. And then you just, he keeps stoking this fire inside of you because you don't have any expectation. But you do have expectation because you have trust built on his character that he's going to show up in powerful ways. But when I lose the mystery and change it for the certainty, again, pride, if we go back to it, that's pure pride. I'm like, I grow callous, I grow dull, and truthfully, my Christianity becomes boring. It becomes monotonous, becomes mundane. And I think, I don't want to get too much into this episode, but I think that's a lot what the Western church has become.
Yeah.
Monotonous, boring, and mundane.
Yeah.
And then there's the complete other side of the spectrum where you see, they're too charismatic, they're too out there.
Extravagant.
Either you have complete yield by the Holy Spirit, or we don't talk about the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Okay, where do other people fall in between? Different episode for a different day. I know you probably have way more knowledge on that than I do. But man, it's just I just see, like, when you get to the mystery of that, it keeps you hungry. It keeps you coming back for more. It's like, man, I've tasted and seen how good God is, but I just want more.
It's as if what you're saying is that in our relationship with God, He never gets tired of trying to woo us.
No.
Like, this was something that the Bible reading, the recap with Tara Cobble, I think.
Got it.
She said this, I think yesterday, that God is a infinitely lovable God. Mm-hmm. Like, the more you know about Him, the more you'll love Him. Mm-hmm. And I just hadn't thought about that. Like, I just hadn't thought about the idea that the more God reveals to me, the more I'll love Him. Like, in a way of saying, I understand that in human terms. Like, the longer I spend with Whitney, like, I love her more today than I have ever, you know? Mm-hmm. And I get that's the cliche answer, but there's truth to it, right? Like, she just continues to be better and continue. It doesn't mean she's perfect, all those kinds of things, but if we had cameras, you just see Sheldon just clicked. Something just happened. We'll get to it in a second. But it's as if God doesn't get tired of wooing us and being like, hey, by the way, because I love you enough, I'm not going to let you get bored because I'm better than you think I am. Which is like, sometimes we look at it like, oh, well, I have to be obedient. And I get it. Like, one of the things I always say is, like, we're called to obedience, not results. So if fruit never shows up, that's not my call to say whether or not it was the right thing to do. I'm just supposed to be obedient. But when I like add that relational aspect of it, and I'm like, dang, I kind of think about me when I was dating Whitney, and I'm like trying to show different sides of myself. Or, man, I didn't know, maybe you didn't think I was capable of this, or maybe you didn't think I could do this. And I'm just like, I also play the guitar. I also sing. I also, I'm trying to woo her, but I'm slowly revealing things because I don't want to run out. Yeah. I don't want to run out of stuff.
Right.
But then to think about God doing that with us, which is like, yeah, Moses, you saw what happened when I hit the staff, or when you throw the staff and it becomes a snake in front of Pharaoh, when I did all these things. But I don't think you've ever seen it happen when you speak to it. Did you know I could do that too?
Yeah, try that.
Oh, now go ahead. You're about to.
Bro, I'm not married, but this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like a good friend, I was having a conversation this morning because we were talking about some stuff, and he just put me on game. Slight plug, if you are a single person, male or female, you need married friends because they will put you on game. It's free. They have done the work, and they are setting you up better than if you went to the cold turkey and all your friends are single.
Yeah.
You're going to struggle.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. I'm not married, and AJ can say that. Any other married person can say that. It's true because you don't know what you don't know. You've never been there. Anyway, we were talking, and he was talking about how he has almost fallen in love with his wife twice. He fell in love with the first time to get him to marry, like when he wanted to marry her.
Yeah.
And then as they grew and changed, he's fallen in love with her again with the new versions of her as she grows and changes and matures and all different things. I'm sure it's the same way vice versa. And when I was looking at that, like, it makes so much sense why we make a lifetime commitment of why I have to constantly look for growth and but also love who you were, love who you are, and also love who you're becoming.
Yeah.
And when I love who you're becoming and who you are in the same time, it keeps me in this place of like, man, I don't know where you're going, but I'm here for the ride. And when I finally get the eyes to see, oh, this is who you're becoming, man, I love that.
Yep.
Why? It's the same thing with God. But the thing is with God doesn't change.
That's right.
God is the same today, yesterday, and forevermore.
Hebrews 13:8.
But it's the fact that our limited understanding, don't understand your point you were making about God being an infinitely lovable God. Like, if you think God is amazing one day, imagine how much more amazing it'd be the next day. Because each day comes a new mercy.
Wow.
It's a new day. Excuse me.
Into the mic is crazy.
Into the mic is crazy. That came out of nowhere. I don't know if you ever heard that, but that's nuts. This came out of nowhere. That took me off guard. But
that's funny.
Like, even in this conversation, I'm starting to get excited because, man, like, I realized even I lost the mystery for a little bit. I even lost the mystery. This is probably about for a solid month and a half now I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
As we're recapping on this year, I lost the mystery of God. Like, back in January, man, I was on fire. God was showing me so many things, but I got used to it. Once he finally allowed me to get to the place that I was praying for, I got used to it. Like, I was, God, give me wisdom.
Yep.
God, let me get to the secret place. Something a lot of people don't talk about.
Yep.
Once he allowed me to get to the secret place, I was like, man, this is great. And I started doing everything that I did to get to it.
Wow.
Because I received what I thought I want. I received it. But I lost the mystery.
Yeah.
It's like the idea for me where, God, why is it that when I am going through something bad, I think for a lot of people out here, it's opposite. When things are good, you can give God praise. When things are bad, you don't. But for me, when things are bad, I tend to give you praise. When things are good, I don't.
Yeah, you're kind of forced into dependence in a way.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to only have a reason to pray, reason to read, reason to fast, reason to be in community, reason to serve, all these different things just because I'm going through something.
Right.
You show up every time beautifully, magnificently, powerfully in that. And I'm grateful for all those experiences. But God, I will be in better days much longer than I will be in bad days. If I can give you that much praise in bad days, show me how to be consistent in showing up that way and still having the same fervency, having the same drive, having that same tenacity into putting time in with you when things are good. When I'm in times of peace in which you give all of us the opportunity to be in every day. When I'm not in peace, it's easy for me to, God, please, God, I can pray, I can beg, I can plead. When I'm in peace, God, show me how to do that. How can I beg and plead and all these different things. Granted, it's a different way because the subject of what I'm praying for is different,
right?
But the principle should still be the same. And so now I'm like, having this conversation, I'm like, man, God's like, yeah, bro.
What you're saying is that we have to stop looking at God as medicine and start looking at him as our nutrition every day. Right? So I take medicine when I'm sick. And we all know what that feeling is like when you lay down and your nostrils are just clogged up, your nasals are just, and you think back to the last time you could breathe clearly, and you're like, and I was grateful, and I wish I would have. I do it all the time. I lean over,
breathe the extra breath.
Yeah, and I'm tossing back and forth, and I'm like, man, dude, just yesterday I was able to breathe, and I was taking it for granted. We all do it, right? So I take medicine. I'm incentivized to take medicine because I feel bad. But the difference between taking medicine and, say, getting good nutrition, eating healthy, whatever that looks like for you, is that I'm not just incentivized to do it when I feel bad. It's consistency that adds to my overall health anyway, right? So the truth of what you're saying is, it's easy for me to digest God whenever I need the spoonful of medicine. It's hard for me to change my everyday habits of what I eat. And that's true for America and large. Like, that is the symbol of what we are like with God. Yeah, I'll go on a diet when I get too overweight or when I get too close to this medical condition or when I indulge too much, I go overboard. But I'm not really willing to change who I am and what I do. And something that I would draw, just to like pull the curtain back on this podcast a little bit. I know that Sheldon and I, even as we were starting it, we were kind of like, we kind of have some wild energy going on right now. Who knows what's about to happen? Right. Let's do like a 20-minute one at least.
Yeah,
it's 45 minutes about,
Yeah.
But to document, even to talk about what we've talked about, we started after that crazy energy. Into, hey, how do you know when to make the right decision? And we've ended on, isn't God awesome? Isn't he wonderful? And I would give you that as your secret sauce of any Christianity, of you following Jesus, is never losing your sense of awe. And here is the distinction. If you can ask that question of God, what should I do, and never have an emotional response to who he is, I don't think you're asking the right people. I don't think you're spending time with him. Now, I'm not saying that every moment, every decision has to feel like this emotional outburst. Right. I'm not saying that. But I am saying, when was the last time you let your mind wander to from, hey, God, how can I do this better? And my answer to it is, wow, you're better than I thought you were. Like, I remember... I have a pastor of mine who just really, I talk about him a lot, but he's just a spiritual father of mine. And he hit me one time. I think I was in maybe my first year of college. And he was like, dude, what happened? What happened to that AJ that would cry every message? Just 8th grade. It didn't matter what I was preaching about. Just felt God move. And I think sometimes we like to intellectualize or like to, whatever. It was a different time. And it was. It doesn't mean I'm supposed to cry at every message. Right? Like, I was also a kid or dealing with hormones. All those, like, there's a lot that's going on in that mind. Like, but man, I feel like feeling this right now. Like, I'm close to tears.
I'm literally
just
the same
saying,
thing, bro.
Wow. How did I, start the conversation without being like, dude, he's great. He's just more lovable than I thought he was. And I talked about it early on one of our episodes, just about the way that Eastern culture kind of talks about truth, is they don't look at truth as like we have to find out what's the most true and then that can never change, and then anything else is like an attack. It's like it's continually unfolding what it means, and there's deeper levels and layers. And I just think that if Moses in that moment would have been like, God, every chance you give me, I find out that you are better than I thought you were. Why wouldn't he speak to the rock? But maybe because his eyes were on the people, maybe because he was frustrated, maybe because God talking to him face to face got normal. Because I remember reading those passages where his brother and sister, like, doesn't God also speak to us? And God shows up in the tabernacle and is like, why are you talking to him like that? And he says, I think the passage is, if there were prophets among you, I would speak to them in dreams. But not with Moses. With Moses, I speak face to face as a friend. Could it be that at some point between then and where we end up, Moses has let face to face with God feel normal? Because I remember now being like, as I read it, I'm like, God, that's what I want. I want to be face to face. I want to talk to you like a friend. And maybe the charge is, hey, AJ, I already do. You just got sick of it.
I need my soundboard.
You just don't like it. It's just not extravagant enough for you anymore. And there's a whole other dialogue and conversation about our society's need for the extravagant. We can have that conversation, but I'm going to sit right here and chew on that to think like, wow, why would I want to do anything else? He's the best. It's almost as if God continues to woo us for our own good. I'm the greatest good there is, and so I continue to lavish that out on you so that you'll come to me because it's best for you.
Right.
I'm rambling. There's nothing else for me to say. He's just better than you think he is.
Yeah.
I'm done. I am undone, so to say.
Yeah, I got some things I need to marinate in later because when you're talking about, I was like, man, I'm about to cry right now, bro. Like,
I am, bro. I was like, oh.
Yes. All I think about is, man, the verse in Psalms. I'm gonna look it up because I know the verse off the top of my head, but I don't know the exact.
Yeah, they probably get sick of me being like, hey, there's this verse in here, and it kind of sounds like this.
Yeah.
That's a bad habit of mine.
Give me a second, y'all. Y'all won't mind this little 15-second big. Psalms 34:8. Simply, taste and see that the Lord is good.
That's right.
Taste and see that the Lord is good. Like you're saying, how we've lost the savor. It's our. I hate being human sometimes.
Dude, I got heated
because if I eat my favorite meal every day for 30 days, the 31st day I'm probably gonna hate it, and I'm not going to eat it for a long time. I forgot what it tastes like. When I eat it again, oh man, it's so good,
so good.
Same like I'm drinking so much water.
Yep.
Went out for my mom's birthday yesterday. I had a sip of sweet tea. It was the best sweet tea I ever had in my life. I'm like, that first sip of sugar went through my entire body, from my top of my head to my feet. I was feeling that. God invites us to have that feeling, right? But what happens? I think what a lot of us miss is when that feeling goes away.
Yeah.
Because the feeling went away. Did God change? Or is that an invitation for us to seek Him a different way?
Yeah.
Or to get quieter, or to rest. That could be a big one.
Sure is.
Like if something that I say all the time that I preach to myself is, I do not want to treat the Word of God. Like if you ask me what's the secret to being a Christian, you got to be in the Word.
Yeah.
But you got to allow the Word to be in you.
That's right.
So I don't want to treat the Word like bubblegum. A lot of us do that. We take a verse. I can read the same verse we just did. Taste and see the Lord's good. That's great.
Lost its flavor.
And then spit it out.
That hubba bubba. It was good when you first read it. Oh yeah, God is good. And then 10 minutes later, something happens. God's not good anymore. But if I allow the Word to do what the Word is supposed to do, if I consume it and allow it to be my nutrients, which you're talking about, and allow it to fill me, and allow it to like be my protein, be my carbohydrate, be my fat, be my fiber, be my vitamins, and do everything it's supposed to do, what is it going to do for my body? It's going to increase my overall health. Yeah. When it increases my overall health, my perspective of God does not shift from Him. Right.
My perspective of Him will change because He's so vast and large that He has to illuminate our minds.
Yeah.
But when I get to that place where I'm consistently consuming and allowing the Word to have its work in me like it's supposed to, I will keep that awe of Him.
Yeah.
Because God's not going to get out of line. We are the ones that's going to get out of line. And yes, we're human. We are going to get out of line.
Yeah.
We're not saying that you're going to be perfect in that. Because, quite frankly, I'm bold enough to say it, you probably won't be perfect. You're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
That's straight up. You're not going to be perfect. I will bet all the money in my life saves. Not that much.
Yeah.
But you won't be perfect.
That's right.
But that's the beauty and grace. Because God knows He's already factored in our imperfectness by sending his perfect son. He's already factored that in. He knew your propensity to walk and wander and be distracted and choose other things over him. And he said, I don't care. I will still send my son for you, and I will still make a way for you. What better can there be? What, like you said, how good? What greater good? Like,
it's like you said it though. In January, you were on fire, and I think we have this habit as Christians of making our passion about us, right? So I think it's more accurate to say you didn't lose your fire; you shifted your focus.
No, 100%,
right? And I think we all do. We are like, yeah, man, I used to be so on fire, and then we use it as like as a scale of how good we're doing, right? But like the only reason you were on fire to begin with,
because of where my focus was,
is because you were allowing yourself to focus on God, and God, when we look at Him, and when we gaze upon Him, and when we're in awe of Him, naturally as a side effect, our passion for Him grows because we see how worthy He is, how awesome He is, how holy He is. And so, man, I did not think this conversation was going to happen. I wasn't planning on it, but I think it needed to happen. Yeah. It's powerful, and I hope it touches you guys, but I need you to understand, like, your Christianity, it is not a outcome of your focus. And it is not an outcome of your strength and your determination and your discipline. All I know is that if you fix your eyes on Jesus for long enough, you just continue to meet His gaze with yours, you will be undone by Him. And then that passion will come back. And then that fire will come back. And you will stop calling it your own passion. Yeah. And you will start rightfully calling it your response to Him. It's just because I was looking at Him. Yeah. This is why sometimes we villainize like the camp high in Christian culture. Where we're like, well, it's because it's easy and it was emotional and everybody was there for a week at camp. And so everybody got this feeling, and it's like, no. The camp high is not the enemy. It can be an idol.
That's the part right
there. And we got to knock that off. But what naturally happens when you remove distractions and fix your gaze is that experience.
Oh, bro, yes.
That's what happens because of who He is, not because of what we did. But I know when I make time and I remove distraction and I put Him back on the throne of my heart and I go and I just look at Him.
Because what's the promise? If you abide in me, I will abide in you.
I can't. Well, I mean, you heard it here first, folks. Thanks for putting up with us. Those of you guys that made it for the first 15 minutes of whatever this was. But I think in a lot of ways, it really is just a look into who Sheldon and I are. Like, this is who we are. We have fun with each other, but then, I think one thing I want to encourage you, and maybe that we be praying for you guys for as well, is that you guys would find friends that you can have fun with, and then all of a sudden, God is like, boom.
Let's lock in.
Boom. Yeah. I need you to know this. I need you to know this. I am like, I can't say anything. I am undone.
This episode wasn't for y'all. I'll be honest.
No.
This episode was not for y'all.
And if it connected and you think somebody needs to hear it, man,
please share it.
Share it. Send it. Do it. Get it out. But like, y'all need to know that was for us. Yeah. That was for us. I'm going to be on that, man. And you know what sucks is I know I'm going to have to hear it again. And that's what frustrates me. But isn't God good enough that He'll do it again?
Amen.
Man, I got nothing else, man.
Hey, this has been Lessons and Blessings, man. Keep your focus on the main thing. That's right. Jesus. If you keep your focus on Him, you can walk on that water.
That's it.
So, y'all have a good week. Love y'all.
We love you.
Be blessed.
Peace.